Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, talking about culture, yeah, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Ja.
And I am Anthony Sear, and a pleasant welcome to Focus on Liberia. Today is indeed a very special production here at Focus on Liberia. And if you have never enjoyed any of our productions here, this one promises to be that one you will enjoy, for the subject is sensitive, is serious, and it is consequential in the life of every African, let alone our dear country, Liberia and Liberians. We are here to have a debate on a consequential topic, religion and Christianity. Is that helping us as Africans? Or is it helping Africa and Liberia? Or is it hurting us? We have two outstanding gentlemen who are here to debate this particular very sensitive and very consequential topic. They are divided on the issue, and so the debate will go accordingly. We would not get started in no time, and yet is how we get started. Good day and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Today we take on a serious question that sits at the center of African life and at the heart of the Liberian identity. Is religion, specifically Christianity, helping or hurting Africa and Liberia? That is the question. We are not here to attack Christianity or to dismiss it. We are here to examine it with honesty, to test it against the evidence, and to demand that it answers to its influence. Joining us today are two outstanding debaters who have agreed to defend opposing positions with rigor and intellectual honesty. Dr. Clarence R. Pearson will argue that religion is helping Africa and Liberia, whereas Mr. Joseph Tao will argue that religion is hurting Africa and Liberia. Both will be held to the same standard. No vague declaration, no retreat into empty affirmations. Liberia is nearly 90% Christian, and yet Liberia remains among the most underdeveloped nations on earth. That is the tension at the center of today's debate. Gentlemen, I cannot welcome you enough. Let us start with Dr. Clarence Arrow Pearson. Dr. Pearson, unmute yourself and welcome to Focus on Liberia. How are you doing? And are you ready for this debate?
Thank you, Anthony, and hi to Brother Tao. Look, I'm ready for this debate because I feel it is very essential to our national building process in Liberia. I think Christianity plays a fundamental role to our nation building process. It impacts our entire history from start to where we are today. So I think having a conversation, not necessarily a vain debate over whether religion is good or not, but to understand deeply how Christianity has influenced Liberia and Africa as a whole in a positive way, is something I'm willing anytime, any day to come and discuss for the interest and benefit of our people.
And by the way, that Clarence Arrow Pearson is Focused on Liberia new progressive commentator. Let us welcome Focus on Liberia panelists on our program On Point, where the debaters are always on point. The gentleman, Mr. Joseph Tao. Joe, welcome. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very good. Hi, Anthony, and hi, Dr. Pearson. I'm glad to be here, and hi to our viewers. I want to frame this. I don't really see this as a debate. I see it as a discussion where we try to kind of make some clarification and point out. I am not here for me to condemn anybody's belief system, but I am here for me to put some clarification on where it may be hurting us, where it is harming us, and if there are ways in which it could be practiced to where it kind of incorporate the general society to where it create a positive impact. That is what I'm here for, because religion is about the betterment of a people. And if you have a belief system that is not advancing you, then it has to be critiqued. And that is why I'm here.
Mr. Tao, thank you so very much. And with the opening statement from our debaters, we will resume the discussion or the debate. And the first question will go to Dr. Clarence Arrow Pearson. And here is the question. Dr. Pearson, let us begin with the numbers. According to 2022 Liberian census, approximately 85% of the population identifies as Christian. Liberia has carried the label of a Christian nation for generations. Given that overwhelming majority, how do you explain that Liberia also consistently ranks among the poorest and most underdeveloped countries in the world? And how does your position account for that contradiction?
Thank you, Anthony. Look, I think I should begin by first of all saying that Christianity should be judged by its overall impact on society and not by the misconduct of some of its representatives. And that is key to begin with, because when we evaluate Liberia, honestly, Christianity has built schools, Christianity has built hospitals, Christianity has increased literacy, Christianity has provided health care, Christianity has supported reconciliations, Christianity has fed the poor, it has provided the social services, it has supported nation building, it has strengthened civil society, it has promoted moral accountability in our society. So it is fair enough to say, for me, the question is not whether Christianity is flawed, right? For me, my question here is whether Liberia will be better without Christianity as it is today. The answer for me is clearly no, right? So then come to your question when you say, if 85% of Liberians are Christian, why is Liberia still poor? Look, I think the answer is simple. And the premise of that question in itself is, with all due respect, is flawed. Now, why do I say that? A country's religious identity alone does not determine its level of development. And that must be made very clear. If Christianity automatically created wealth, then Haiti will be rich. Then the Democratic Republic of Congo will be rich. Then Guatemala will be rich. Likewise, if religion or Christianity, all right, cause poverty, then China will be poor. Then Japan will be poor. Then even South Korea will be poor. But that is not the case. There is no evidence to suggest that the presence or absence of religion impacted the wealth of the people based on religion alone. Now, development depends on governance, education, infrastructure, rule of law, economic policy, political stability, and Liberia as a nation has suffered 133 years of political exclusion, right? That led to the Samuel Rebellion. We also have seen military rule in the Samuel Rebellion that excluded any form of religious antecedent to that conflict. It was based solely on the native man, quote unquote, without any insult to the native man, concept that the democratic system was not working for them. It was dominating them, was excluding them, not Christianity, and it brought about the war. Now we saw coups happen, we saw civil war, we saw state collapse, we saw Ebola, we saw COVID-19. Christianity did not cause any of these problems. And so for us to think that because Liberia is where it is, and 85% of its citizens are Christian, therefore that Christianity has contributed in a negative way to its development, I think that premise is flawed. Look, let's be honest, right? And I want all of us listening to be honest with this argument. Christianity is not Liberia's problem. Corruption.
You have 30 seconds to conclude.
Yeah, corruption, bad governance, civil conflict, weak institutions are Liberia's true problems. Is Christianity perfect? By traditional cultural faith belief? Any Christian will argue yes. Is the practice of Christianity by individuals and persons and institutions as a select group perfect? No. There may be need for some reform in institutions and individuals, but Christianity as a whole is not a contributing factor to being where it is.
Thank you. And Mr. Tao, you have 2 minutes, and I remind you, you have 2 minutes to rebut. And I will summarize the question I asked him. In summary, the question is, what impact has Christianity had on Africa and Liberia over the last 200 years? Positive or negative?
I won't say positive or negative, but this is what I would say. And if I look at it, it's a lot more negative because we have to first, you can't discuss Christianity without discussing how it came into the country. Who brought Christianity to the Africans in Liberia? Because before the Christian missionaries came in to have any meaningful impact in some very small sense, because I studied the missionary movement across Africa, it was the American Liberians. How did they bring it? They were conquerors. Anthony, religion has never been brought by outsiders to another people through a good means. So that the person listed a whole bunch of stuff, schools and hospitals, at what expense? Displacing the people, dehumanizing them, displacing their culture, emptying them of themselves, and then they go to the churches and the schools, but they don't know who they are. That is why the nation failed. Because for those 133 years, the attempt through the so-called pilgrims that came was to pretty much displace the African self, the African person within the people they met in Liberia. And what happened? If you question it. They didn't care whether you had your own belief system, whether you had a way of worshiping. Our forefathers were forced. They were compelled. They were penalized. It was a benefit, and it was a reward and punishment relationship. I grew up in ERWA. I was one of the renegade amongst those missionaries. I was told by many because I questioned how in the world that you just came into being. I started this journey since I was in my teens. And I asked this question in Bible study and they would throw me out. How in the world did Christianity come in the 1800s to us? And we led nations, we rule, we govern ourselves. And you are telling me that if my great-great-grandfather did not hear about Jesus, that he going to hell. How is that possible? How come in this Bible that you brought me, God does not look like me? And the concept that you have put together does not represent me. They will throw me out. Okay?
Thank you.
And to just rest. No, the Africans did not revolt against the American Liberians because there was that they didn't like democracy. What democracy was being practiced? Democracy, which is majority rule, cannot be practiced in a society where 4% control the people for over 100 years. So for you to make this statement is misplaced.
Thank you, Mr. Tao. You have made your rebuttal. We will now go to the second question, which belongs to you.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
before we go to the second question, may I provide some interjection?
You have 45 seconds for that interjection.
So Mr. Tao, it's important to make some clarifications here. You said Christianity, according to your assumption, came to Africa in around the 18th century. But that is not a fact. In fact, when Judaism was being practiced, which is a historical reference to a living group of people today who still hold history to that knowledge, conveyed to us by their historian Josephus, account for Jesus going into his parents going into Egypt under a religious cover for his safety. Now, you may say by that time Christianity did not exist, but it tells you that religion and religious protection existed at that time, that Jesus' parents were taken to Egypt for cover. Not only that, the earliest form of religion coming into Africa was in the 4th century, prominent among the Ethiopians even before the European came to Africa. So I just want to make that clarity for historical reference.
All right, thank you. That clarity has been made. Mr. Tao will take the floor for his question. Mr. Tao, you argue that religion is hurting Liberia and Africa. Before you make the case, be precise. Are you arguing that the problem is Christianity itself as a belief system, the institution built in its name, or the behavior of those who claim to live in its name? The distinction matters, and the audience deserves clarity from you. Your response.
It's a little bit of all of them.
Okay.
And this is how it is. Worshiping a higher power or divinity, what do you call it, God or whatever name you want to give it, which Christianity then was put together. It's not because each time you mention this, people think that, oh, you don't believe in God. That is not it. Anthony, if you had a suitcase and you were traveling, and you know that your suitcase had Adidas on it, and you pack all your stuff in it, and you got on the plane, and you arrive at where you're going, and you open the suitcase, it's there, you saw it, but then all of the content that was in that suitcase was changed. And you look in there, the shirt is smaller than what you had, the shoe is not the same size. Will you still be claiming that these things belong to you? No, and that is a problem that we are having. When this guy mentioned the 4th century, or Orthodox Christian religion that is practiced is not the one that was brought into Africa. It was already there, and this practice is completely different. That is why you see the Ethiopians operate a little bit more independent, and they have that sense of self-determination in them. But so the way it is practiced, the way it is closed, okay, go ahead and take the image of Jesus, make it black, put a black person and hang it into any church and see if a white man is going to come in there. They're not going to come in there. That is the point that I'm making. They know that it's a psychological game. They're not going to allow you to alter the psychology of their children and of their race. I mentioned here on the show last night that Buddha is the same name, but in Japan, Buddha look like it's a Japanese. In China, Buddha is Chinese. In India, Buddha is Indian. So it's not so much of the Christianity, but the way in which it is packaged. So you have to take that. Look, I read the Bible. There are a lot of good things in the Bible that can be useful and that can be applied. But there are things in the Bible and the organization of any way it is used to be applied, the whole ceremony and everything, it has to be questioned by Africans. Why is it that we're the only people in the world, our God does not look like us? And we don't think that is a problem? These are some of the, even if we're not going deep, these are some of the basic areas that we have to start. And Dr. Pearson made a strong point, which have nothing to do with Christianity being in Africa at that time. That in the book where the angel Gabriel told Joseph and Mary take the child and go to Egypt, that demonstrates that the child have to look like the people among where they were going. That child had to be black to be able to hide in a black country. Because if that child was white, that child would stand out. That is the point.
Mr. Tao, if I may, you referenced the Bible, so I'm just curious here. Do you believe the Bible is the word of God, or what is your belief or understanding of the Bible?
No God wrote in a book. People wrote books and put God's name in it. And we are going to go to the history of this because we have to look at how this very Christianity that we believe in, how we're put together. These were just belief systems and allegories and methodologies that were around. Men trying to figure out where we came from, the source of origin, and the ultimate causation of death when we leave from here, where we're going. Go and read the Book of the Dead, or what you call the Book of the Coming Forth by Day and Night, the oldest philosophical and religious book in the world from the Nile Valley. The Africans were addressing this. Go and read what you call the Osirian drama in that section of the book, where they look and they say, where do we come from? And the question was, they were looking and they couldn't see anything. So they started to look among themselves and they saw it was a female character that was giving birth, bringing life. So they said, but wait, hold on. If there is a higher power, it has to be a woman. So the first images that they started building and the first deity that were created were females. The oldest one in African mythology is called Hathor, Hathor, that the Jews adopted and they called the golden calf that they carried on their shoulder. The Indians adopted it in the Brahmins and they call it the sacred cow. So these questions went on and they developed, and in Asia, they call it Mawa. It was a woman. Read the book called When God Was a Woman. So that is where it started, that when you hear goddesses and stuff. In the Arabian Peninsula, where Islam is so strong right now, they worship two women, Allah Husat and Alat. That was the two women that was worshipped.
Thank you.
So no, God did not write anything. Nobody can show any proof. It's people who wrote them, and then they put God's name in it. And then they use it.
Can you conclude in 30 seconds?
For them to control people.
You got 30 seconds to conclude, sir.
Okay, yeah. But the present Bible that we're reading was put together primarily at the Nicene Conference. Go ahead and read the Nicene Conference and see how it was put together when Constantine forced those guys for 3 months. Bishops from Africa everywhere, 327 bishops, told them that they must unify Christianity. Go and read what they call the Nicene Creed. The creed was what determined the divinity of Jesus, where the group that refused to accept that and show their proof, how they were exiled, and were beat up, and were threatened, and they were killed, and some of them were, and all the materials were burned. And Constantine decided that this right here is going to be the one. The European bishop from Rome, they won.
Thank you, Mr. Tao. Thank you so very much for your response to the question. Dr. Pearson, you have 2 minutes to rebut.
Look. There are a couple of things that I think Mr. Talo respectfully has a wrong perspective of, right? Number one, he mentioned resemblance of people to their God, right? So I don't think that is a valid argument, because he referenced, like example, he referenced Buddhism. In Buddhism, from my theological studies when I was doing my bachelor's of theology, we did studying international religions. We did not see, and at no time I saw in the state of Buddhism that Buddhism subscribed to a divinity, a God, a set aside divine nature or person. No. Buddhism believes that you can migrate and develop towards a certain level of supremacy, of enlightenment. That is their concept. Now, I'm not arguing whether other like Hinduism, Judaism, other people that don't have their own form of maybe religious figure. But again, now the anatomical / geographical description of a person. By that I mean Chinese man and how the Chinese man will look based upon his geographic. Indian man, how the Indian man will look according to his geographic. Bassa man, how Bassa man will look according to his geographic. Those things are things that will change over time depending on the different dynamics caused by either genetic crossbreeding and other kind of stuff. So I will not argue whether a certain group of people having migrated over time and interbreed will change in nature or form. I'm not arguing that. But I can say to Mr. Talu for certain, Mr. Talu, I do not have to worry whether Jesus was black. Whether Jesus was Tao, I wouldn't have to worry whether Jesus was black or he was white. All I have to know is to understand what is the geographical description of a Jewish person. That's what I need to know. Because the Jewish people still exist today. Even though there are some of them who got intermarried and mixed with other breed, there are still Jews who secluded themselves, insulated themselves, decided to be only to marry in their culture, within their tribes, within their family, and they have held to that orthodoxy, and they maintain that geographical and anatomical posture today. So I only have to walk in Israel and see the different complexion of Jew and make my deduction as to what Jesus will look like. I don't have to subscribe to a American man black Jesus Bible. I don't have to subscribe to a white man white Jesus Bible. I have to believe what geographic and anatomical presentations the evidence provide for me in a state of anthropology. So again, I will conclude in my 2 minutes by saying this. Listen, Brother Tao, Christianity and religion is not a make-believe understanding. The Bible, in an opportunity of being put together by inspired men who were inspired by God, is not a coincidence. Even your traditional beliefs that you have has a tradition passed down by word of mouth from people to people today. They are subscribed into books. So will you disprove the traditional culture and religious tradition that the people believe in, their form of religion? No.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. Your 2 minutes over. Mr. Tao, go ahead. You have 30 seconds, and I have a question for you.
So look at what happened here. The doctor is mixing a lot of things. For the doctor to sit here and understand the psychology of a people, and he is telling that he doesn't care that somebody present to you that this is your God. That is God determining eternity for you. That he doesn't care what the color of that God is. It's troubling. And that is where we find ourselves. The next one here is that if the doctor had gone in and briefly look at some history, he would know that the present day people over there, they're not Jews. They are not no Jews. Those are Caucasians. Those are Europeans. They were never around there. Benjamin Milkowski calling himself Benjamin Netanyahu from Poland. Go and look at all of them. They are not Jews. They only put themselves in it. And you need to go and see that present day Israel that you see is not the one that was even mentioned in the Bible. Because if you want to look at the Balfour Declaration in the 1920s and 30s on how that state was created. But look, this is so I just wanted to point that out. But to conclude on this real quick in my 30 seconds.
Yeah, please, very quick.
There is no way of religion. Religion is a culture. It is the culture, it's the deification of a culture elevated to the highest level in any society. That is what we call religion. That is why if you read all the other religion, you see their culture on how they could live and how to do stuff. So if you are saying that Liberia is a Christian nation, it is good for us, and religion is supposed to set moral code of conduct and look in our country, honor the leadership that's supposed to be Christian. What is the moral code of conduct that they're following?
Thank you.
It's not good.
Thank you, Mr. Tao. We continue with our questioning, and we will come to question number 3. And Mr. Tao, question number 3 will come to you. Mr. Tao, historically, Christianity arrived in Liberia alongside the American colonization society and the Americo-Liberian settler class. It was tied to a specific power structure that excluded indigenous Liberians for generations. How much of what you call the harm of religion in Liberia is actually the harm of colonialism dressed in religious clothing? And can those two things be separated, sir?
No, you really can separate it. Look, let me say this, Anthony. Let me start from here. You know, when you talk about religion, which is a belief or a belief system, when they came in to heavily entrenched that into Liberia, our people were excluded. If you didn't associate, if you didn't, many Liberians became Christian so that as a means of survival, just like it happened in the plantations here, where when they brought you, you would sleep hungry. The other person would sleep in a good house. You would sleep outside where you could get bit by snakes unless you confess that Jesus is your Lord. And then you were promoted. So that allowed people, and if you look at the Nicene Conference, when they signed it, it was the same thing that happened.
Are you saying religion was imposed or Christianity was?
Yeah, it was. Christianity was imposed. It was imposed. Any kind of form of belief system that is brought by a military government with arms in their hand into a people, it cannot be brought peacefully. Go and read in history, religion was never brought anywhere peacefully. It was never brought peacefully. It was always brought by conquerors. Because the goal is to subvert your psychology, to remove you from out of creation. Because if you don't have a God, this is the message that they're giving. And they bring their God and they say this is the only God.
And so, Mr. Tao, the crux of my question is how religion somehow dressed in colonialism, right? How has it been able to hurt Africa and Liberia over the years?
First, it messed up your psychology. You lose your self-esteem. Look, religion, Christianity, the Abrahamic religion, but we're talking about Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, they're imperialistic religion. And this is how. If you look at the African religions or spirituality, we do not claim universality. Because the African is very intelligent enough and have no desire to conquer nobody, they do not know that the man way is the only way. So if you look, we practice our different ways. And the guy from Nima that is practicing any way that he can worship a divinity is friend with the guy from Grand Basso or from Bon. There is nothing that says, my God is your God. It's only a conqueror that will do that. We don't lay claim because we don't know. When the Europeans show up, they lay claim. So the first thing they try to do was to destroy your psyche, destroy your psychology, to tell you that you do not belong in creation. And when you refuse for you to entertain them, what did they do? They get very aggressive. They start to penalize you. They start to, then those that will conform, they promote them. And they're the one now that have state power. And you see the other people getting elevated. And you are left. What does it do to you? So you conform, and that is one of the things. Look, so the aspect that, a lot of aspects of Christianity. Look, I grew up in a Christian environment. I know what it can do. The praying to God have nothing to actually do with all of the dogmatic stuff around the belief system. I know that Christianity made me to be focused, where I was like, okay, I can't do this. No, I'm not going. I grew up in a very big Christian environment, but we have to still look at it. What did it do to us? You are not putting on.
You are acknowledging that there are some values Christianity has.
Oh yes, no, yes, people. Yes, no. Okay. There's some values to Christianity. I'm not disputing that. I told you here. I read the Bible.
But your issue is at what cost?
Huh?
Your issue is at what cost?
At what cost? And it is not every aspect. So those aspects, if you look at it, look, there are aspects in there that are harmful. And I mentioned one of them here, and the doctor is saying that I shouldn't worry about that. He doesn't care. That, look, if we are going to leave Christianity that way, some of the area to start is to change
30 seconds to conclude.
Yeah, we have to. If we are going to leave Christianity the way it is, the images have to be changed. We have to have a God that look like us. When our children are growing up and our grandchildren, when they enter into a church, when we're talking about God, the God that they can imagine, got to be a God that look like them.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tao. Thank you so very much. Dr. Pearson, you have 2 minutes to rebut, and then I will have a question for you, sir.
In my 2 minutes, I want to state clearly that Tao, I never said that I was not concerned about the color of the skin or of the anatomy of an individual proclaiming to be God or subscribing to that person as a God. I said, and I was emphatic about it, there are ultra-Orthodox Jews who are legitimate Jews whose gene had not been in any way contaminated over history, and they exist. If I want to know how a Jewish person looked at Jesus Christ was a Jew, I can still find Jews today to see their geographical complexity and complexion and determine who Jesus will look like. That's what I said. I don't need an African black man to say because he's black, God must be black. I don't need a white man to say because I'm white like the Russian white, God must be white like a Russian white. That argument is below the argument, the equity, the argument that we're having here. Now, let me go to what I want to say here. Look, the failures of Christianity are often failures of believers, not failure of Christianity or the Christian teachings of values. Let's get that clear. You talk about God and war. You talk about God and war. I will educate you to your African tradition religion. And answering as a traditionalist here will bear with me that there has been no traditional war that God was not there to give the oracle to speak for the people to go to war. Whether in Mahunta in Pribo, whether in Sastan, whether in Nima, whether in Grand Jide, our ancestors went to war after the oracle has spoken. And if the gods were not with them to go to battle, they will not go to battle. So the idea of a religion and war is not the same thing. Religion is a confidence in a divine being that will necessitate you and give you the strength to know and have confidence in what you're doing. It's different from war as an act of war. There are people who went to war. Yes, they were atheists. They had no belief in God. They're there too. But in Africa, our traditional people, especially Liberia, never went to war unless the oracle spoke. Go ask Milton Blythe, who was the butt naked in Liberia Civil War. He will tell you that for a fact. And now let me come down to let me close on this 30 seconds. Religion, particularly Christianity, has done more good than what I want to keep saying. Has done more good. It is not an enforced practice on humanity or an enforced practice on Liberians. Because as I said, the 4th century had religious experience. Jesus was born. Religion was still transferred to Africa before that time. African has always been religious from the day of birth. The point of matter here and that concerning me is that Christianity as it is practiced today has done more good for Liberia and Africa than any harm it has done.
Thank you. Now the question comes to you, Dr. Pearson. The church in Liberia was among the first to build schools, hospitals, and community institutions. That is undeniable. But many of those institutions collapsed or deteriorated over time. Does that legacy still carry moral authority today, or has it been consumed by what the church has since become?
Thank you, Anthony. I think it depends how you want to see it. And I want to drill this one. Christianity has helped Liberia and Africa more than it has hurt Africa and Liberia. The failure that exists, a failure of Christians and church institutions, not failure of Christianity itself. The solution is, yes, I agree with Tao. If there's a need for reform, reform some things, bring some level of accountability, and bring some level of corrections in behavioral practices in the church. I agree. That's part of Christianity. It's called sanctification, a growing process where you continue to improve and develop over time. But I will say this. Does the Christian church in Liberia today have moral authority? Yes, Anthony, yes. Because moral authority is earned through continuous service. Moral authority is not because John Brown having a church, he called pour the water running behind the mountain, and he calls on a blunder there, he makes on a mistake there, and then use that as a yardstick to condemn the entire Christian faith. It does not work like that. Today, churches still are operating, clinics are operating, orphanages are operating, feeding program for less fortunate people still going on, youth ministry still going on. Our societal values still being propagated by people who believe that Christianity has a value for our moral setting. And absolutely, I agree that there will be some failures in some institutions. But the contribution towards moving Liberia from where it is not about Christianity. The authority of the church still exists, depending where you go looking for it, Anthony.
And there's my follow-up question to you, Dr. Pearson. You still have time there, right? If you look at some of the most poorest countries in the world, you will come to realize that some of them are predominantly, religious. Liberia, in particular, is one of such countries. You enter Liberia today, by the time you talk to somebody, say, well, by the grace of God. All right. By the time you talk to another Muslim brother, you say, well, I don't know how they can say it. You say, well, you hear Allah. Right. And you see us struggling. But then if you Christians and other religious or individuals who don't believe Buddhists and other practices to not be worshiping the Almighty God, they are doing perfectly well. In fact, some of those countries have much more moral values. Stealing is far less or low compared to, for example, Liberia, where stealing is just all over the place. How has Christianity been good to us if it is failing all of these things?
Look, Anthony, you have to have a broader view of the argument in order to make such a claim. Okay. Christianity sitting alone cannot make a nation prosperous in the absence of the people properly governing themselves and making best use of their resources so that they will achieve the goal and the desired results that they want to come out of their livelihood. In the same way, there is no way that, like I gave the example, Haiti will be rich by now. Haiti is highly religious, but they are not. Look, Democratic Republic of Congo, the people are very religious, but they are not rich today, right? At the same time, look at countries that are not religious at all. Look at China, look at Japan, look at South Korea. So there is not a single yardstick to say that if you are Christian.
And doesn't that prove that religion has failed miserably? Because as you also narrated, right? I mean, because religion is meant, one of the things it's meant to do is to instill honesty, value, the virtue of hard work. Take what belongs to you. All right. It said that it's promoting that, well, just sit by, do nothing, and manna will fall from heaven. Is that what it is?
No. The Bible says a lazy man will go hungry. He who does not work will not eat. The Bible also teaches us that a wise man changes. At the same time, the Bible suggests to us and makes plain to us that there are choices in life that you can make for yourself as an individual. The Bible gives you, or Christianity gives you, opportunity to have free will. Now, having said that, let me make something clear, Anthony. The three of us on this platform here, we are fathers in our homes. We born children. We raise them. They're expecting to give them the best value so that they will bring up the best outcome in their lives. But you can bear with me. All of our kids in the home will not have that same deportment, that same congestion to accept all of the values that we try to instill in them. Their failures Their failures in society, their failure to adhere to our principles and values we try to instill in them does not automatically compute to the fact that we fail to discipline them, to train them. They seem to go for a medical doctor who got trained as a surgeon and decided to use it for clandestine activity and to make wrong money. They seem to go for an engineer who was trained to provide skills to improve society but decided to make nuclear weapon. It cut across. So no, it's not Christianity. It's the individual choice.
Thank you. Let me give you 30 seconds to conclude your thought, and then that I mean, let me say that.
Yeah, so in conclusion,
we'll report.
Yeah, so in conclusion, I will say this. Look, we need to step back and say, look, religion has its faults. Whether Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, they all have their faults. But they do play a distinct role in society. Religion is not governance. Governance is not religion. They may work together to yield results, but they may not always be the sole factor that will yield the outcome that we all see in society, similar to our homes and the rearing of our children and how they come up differently in society. I yield.
Thank you. Mr. Tower, your 2-minute rebuttal, sir.
Yeah. So, you know, the doctor, he make me to laugh for him to mention Haiti and DRC Congo when it was Christians who destroyed those places. Are you saying that because in the first place, Haiti does not follow the Western religious philosophy like you follow it? They follow voodoo, and voodoo is not witchcraft as the European listed it and you believe. What voodoo means is, if you look in the African language, is the unknown, the hidden, like you have Ra, R-A, the sun, which was the highest god in the Nile Valley. But it was Christians from England, from Spain, and from the US that destroyed Haiti when Toussaint Louverture them freed themselves. What did the US do? Use its navy to blockade Haiti for over 100 years. Haiti just got done paying the reparation to French slaveholders 2014, 2015. For over 100 years, they were penalized for them to pay for their own freedom. DRC Congo that you're talking about, you guys here, you're believing the European. You take scholarship in the name of Cicero. When Cicero took over the place called Manicongo or the Congo Free State, with the Vanderbilt and the Pews and the Rockefeller, over 30 million they murdered, and they're still doing it. And you want to, and then in the midst of that, of the chaos and the quagmire, they send their missionaries in and say, if you pray to this God, you will be able to bear the suffering on this earth, and then you will go to heaven. And when the people out of desperation, they turn to Christianity, and then you want to turn around and blame them. When you're seeing Christian brothers, as you put it, go and look at the colonization and slavery. It was the church, Christian church, that was in front of it. The first ship that went to Africa was the good ship Jesus. What was the discussion at that conference in Germany? Was these people are outside of the mercy of God. Go and conquer them. Yes.
All right.
So Christianity, listen, no, let me just close. Christianity is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's a predatory, imperialistic European religious philosophy solely for the political and economic control of people that are willing to accept it. That is why it's failing over the place. Because it's not true, it's fake, the way in which it's given to you.
Thank you. Mr. Tal, then this is your question. In September of 2025 or 2005, African theologians and church leaders published the African Statement on the Prosperity Gospel and Word of Faith Theology, formally declaring that the Prosperity Gospel is among the greatest dangers facing the African church. In Liberia, where poverty is severe and hope is scarce, what is the concrete harm when a pastor tells a struggling family that their poverty is a sign of weak faith? Is there a danger in that?
Yes.
And what is that?
Yes, remember, I just told you here that when they put together religion, and before I answer that question, because we have to look at the historicity of this whole stuff. here is the Roman Empire struggling to hold on, and they're getting weak, and people are moving away. They're not listening to them anymore, and they try everything else, and the Roman citizenship is not working. So Constantine them look, and they have a discussion among themselves that if we can use, because they said the belief of we can force everybody to have one belief. This is not God doing this, oh, it's a government. If we can force everybody to have one belief. So the first discussion they had was in 321 BC in Alexandria, Egypt. The African bishop led by Origen and Eros. And they were discussing about, because the discussion came up on, before you build this Christianity, you have to create a central figure. So this is 321 years after the death of Jesus, based on the date they gave. Jesus is never any kind of God. The divinity that Jesus was created later. It is written. So the discussion was held. And the discussion and the agreement that they came up with was Jesus cannot be God. Just like the Muslim believe that Jesus is the Son of God and he's a messenger, but he cannot be God because the Son and the Father cannot be equal. But there was still confusion in the Roman Empire. So Constantine, you know what? That's it. He called a conference in Constantinople in 325. Brought them there with his army. You need to put this together now. You can't leave from here for 3 months. You held them hostage, pretty much kidnapped. The discussion went on for 3 months. But before they could come, the Origen had died. Arius, who was his lieutenant from Africa, the African bishop came with a group. And the debate came on and he laid it out. Most of the Roman Empire within Rome believed it. They saw that it makes sense. But the Orthodox that he's talking about, the Orthodox Christians from Europe, said that Jesus and God, they are one. That he's man and God. So Constantine got tired. He chose one. At that conference, go and read the Nicene conference, because the Bible that you believe in, how it was put together. And then there, the guys were beaten, their materials were burned, they were excommunicated and exiled. But what happened? 2-3 years later, the Roman Empire was still going. The people refused to follow that Jesus being God stuff. So Constantine was forced to restore those guys back, those 3 guys that refused to sign on. And then in that time, he died. And then Eros that was leading the died. Theodorus came to power, and they called another Nicene conference. But that one, it was at Constantinople. But I'm just giving you the background. So they called that, and there they came up with the creed for them to define it. Even in that, that is where the Trinity was defined. But before then, what was the Trinity? The Trinity was not the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the Father. The African already had a Trinitarian concept. It was the mother, father, and child. They removed the woman out of the picture. So, in short, because the reason we have to point this out, here are men sitting down, government putting something together to enforce it, to hold on, to maintain a political power. And we are trying to take this literally, and we are fighting over it, and we are continuing to be misled. And people who did not want to follow that, they were burned at stake. All kinds of stuff were happening. And it is with this same thing that the church sat down for economic and political reasons. They divided up the world. Christians were the one that led that. The people that funded America, Boston and other places were funded by Presbyterian or Baptist, this one and that one, that one. See the fight between them for power when they started to break up through the Protestant Reformation, when Martin Luther split away from the church, from Rome, when King James fought with the Pope because the church wanted to have control over the king. And King James said, to hell with you. You are in Rome and I am here in England. I'm going to write my own Bible. He used a Gutenberg Bible to write his own Bible. So the whole thing is a political book. I'm not saying some of the things around it cannot be useful, but I'm saying the way in which it is organized.
So, Mr. Tao, I gave you the question. I want a brief answer. Mr. Dr. Pearson has to respond here or give a rebuttal, right? Yes. So, the way you're describing Christianity, what I want to know now, has Christianity empowered Africans?
No, it has not.
Or, let me end my question. Has it empowered Africans to be able to find solutions to their own problems, or has it made them to be dependent on some deity who will come one day and solve their problem?
It has not. It has not. But it can never, because it was never designed that way. It was designed so that you agree to struggle on this earth for a reward when you die. But the people who brought it to you will reap the reward on this earth.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Pearson, your rebuttal, sir.
Thank you, Anthony. What I'm hearing from Tao is that President Boykai misleading Liberia. So obviously, since he's a deacon, then at the church misleading Liberia, not Boykai as a politician misleading Liberia. That's a distinction. There's a distinction. Boykai as a politician is not acting in the name of the church because he's a deacon. I'm using the analogy because it appeals to the listeners, the majority of the listeners that are out there. When Boykai fails, it will be the Unity Party that fails. It will be the politician Boykai that fails. It will not be the Baptist Church of Liberia that fails. Get that clearly. Another thing I want to make clear here, you're talking about Haiti and you mentioning the politicians' activity against the Haitians that inhibited the progress. And then you're trying to convert it to be the Christianity that the 93-94% faith-based people you say they have, even though they have some people who believe in voodoo amongst them. But the majority of them are Christians. Now let me clarify some things here to you, Mr. Tao. Without Christianity, you will not be Tao, the educated man, saying now you're arguing with me right now or debating with me. Without Christianity in Liberia, Anthony C. will not be an educated man saying now with me on the platform right now having this conversation. The Lutheran school was built by Christians. The Catholic schools in Liberia were built by Christians. The Episcopal schools in Liberia were built by Christians. The Seventh-day Adventist schools in Liberia were built by Christians. The Pentecostal schools in Liberia were built by Christians. All of the institutions that provide you the education that you are able now to be governable and governors of yourselves were provided by Christian education. Leave that aside. Let's go to the rest agenda, sanitation and health. Your major primary medical health center in your country, in Liberia, were built by Christians. Today you are healthy because of the Catholic hospital, the ERW hospital, the Lutheran Current hospital, and all of the other, the Adventist hospital, and all of the other private church-based hospitals, when your government hospital cannot even give you proper health care. And before your government hospitals were even existing, it took Christian help. Before Christianity got into Liberia, Tau, you are still using, looking at the put beans around your waist so that malaria can catch you. They were still putting ring on your finger.
Dr. Pearson, I must follow up here. Are you arguing that these institutions are God himself working?
I'm saying, and I stated from the beginning of the argument, that there's a distinction between the faith Christianity and religious beliefs compared to the people who practice it. Yes, there will be people who practice it and will practice it wrong. There will be people who bear the nomenclature that they are Christian, but not necessarily their action will portray Christianity in its full essence. Yes, because they are faulty. They are human beings. Let me correct Tao before I close on this. Tao, you're talking about 300 AD. The people were first called Christian before the 1st century AD. So what are you talking about? People were called Christian before 300 AD. You're talking about 300 years after Christianity was developing and becoming institutionalized structure. Before then, you're talking about the Trinity. Africa had a Trinity. Even the people in Asia at the time had a Trinity. But they have a different argument whether seeing it. Jesus was being baptized. The Bible said, John the Baptist said, while you were baptizing Jesus, he saw a dove come down from heaven. And at the time the dove was coming down on Jesus Christ, the voice said, "This is my son in whom I am well pleased." You may not believe in the Bible, like you say you don't believe in the Bible, but that does not negate the fact that your lack of understanding, which of course I understand, you are human, you are not infinite. We are all finite beings, right? We have limitations. If we could understand God fully, then there will be no God. Then your argument will be right. But as it stands, without Christianity, you will be uneducated. Anson will be uneducated. I will be uneducated. We'll still be cutting palm in Plibo, cutting palm in Sastan, cutting palm in Grand Gire. I'll rest.
All right. Mr. Tao, you muted, I think.
Okay. So yeah, Anthony. Look, I'm really appalled at this guy for him to be making the kind of claims. Here he is. Look at the contradiction. When everything lay out that the church was the one that went around the world, pretty much murdering people all over the place, specifically Africa. He said, no, it is the people and not the organization. But then when he jumped up, when he talked about school, he said that's Christianity. So he want to take the one that he think that is good, affix it to Christianity, and the one that is associated with them, that which most of it is actually bad. He said, no, we can't blame Christianity for that. You see the kind of game he's playing. And look, I grew up, I went to seminary. Let me let you know now. But you made a point that if it was not for the church, I was not going to go to school. You are not going to go to school. You are correct in that. That is why you are here, defending the God of other people. That is what the school did to you. That was a question I asked earlier. At what cost? You think, no, they were turning you into something else other than yourself. They were de-Africanizing you in the school systems. I went to the same kind of school that you went to, but the African individual in me refused to be displaced. So
all right.
I went through it, and then my African self woke up.
Thank you. So with that rebuttal, I'll come to Dr. Pearson for his question. And this one is an interesting question, Dr. Pearson. Pay attention carefully. So former President George Manawia opened his own church soon after taking office. And the late Frank Johnson used the church as a platform for political loyalty and patronage. This pattern of politicians using the pulpit as an extension of power is well documented even way before President Weah, Frank Johnson, and other leaders that we had in Liberia. How can the church claim to be a force for accountability when it is so visibly entangled with political ambition and power, and others may argue just to manipulate the people? Is the church actually God working, or people using it as an institution and the name God to accomplish power and control? You are muted, Dr. Pearson.
Anthony, thank you. Look, you know, the question is very relevant, right? And let me say this for a fact. The problem is political actors misusing Christianity. Politicians have used churches, mosques, tribes, ethnic identities, sports, nationalism. They have used all of these things as tools in their hands. They manipulate them to their advantage. They say, right? No, right? But have there been places and moments where religious figure like Tau may be able to attest to it? A religious figure, the Bishop Marco Pakala Francis, who will stand up and say, this is not the values of the church, and the church cannot be used as a vehicle for misgovernance in the country. Or like Mother Dukley, the powerful Mother Dukley. Back in the day, Tau and myself were all young men come here, were there. Mother Dukley then will prophesy and say, look, this is not what God intends for the nation. So yes, politicians will be politicians, but that does not negate the fact that the church will also be the church. Now, I said this to say, Harvard University have put up great number of students. Not all the students from Harvard University have put their education to proper utilization. Some of them have put it to devious means, right? Whether it is politics, it is medicine, it's other areas, and they put it. At the end of the day, Harvard remains an astute and one of the most renowned universities in the world. Despite they are graduates from Harvard who misrepresented the institution. So I will say this to Mr. Tao. The gods are not to blame. The gods are not to blame. The people who act in the name of the gods may be the one who are misrepresenting the gods. Even your traditional belief that you have, and being so strong that our cultural people have the values, those values can also be abused. That's why you got witch doctor and you got what they call the good witch doctors. So again, in all situations and circumstances in life, there are two sides of the coin. And I'm saying to you, Christianity is different from politics. I submit by saying this logic is indisputable. A politician standing behind the pulpit does not make Christianity corrupt any more than a politician standing in the courtroom make justice corrupt. It will take a sound judge acting in his opinion within the laws to effect the law. If that judge decides to be a crook, the law will be perfected, but the law is not tarnished. And I'll rest my case.
Thank you. Mr. Tao, your rebuttal.
Yeah. The doctor trying to say that Christianity cannot God cannot be blamed. No, I'm not blaming no God. And when you say God, I say the God of the Europeans. That is why you are worshiping. If the guy who is Muslim, you worship the God of the Arabs. So when somebody tell me God bless my old eyes, and which God? I just want to make that clear, because the Christian imperialistic Christian projection is that the assumption is that everybody must conform to their God, and if you don't, you get labeled, you're atheist. All these things don't apply to me. You are talking about China supposed to suffer because they're not. The Chinese have their spirituality. They have Zen Buddhism. They have Confucianism. They have a whole bunch of other stuff, because they're not stupid. They know that it is your culture and its elements that elevate you to religion. That is what you worship. They're not like the African that allow that. So let me just say that for this. But look, religion, the politicians coming on the pulpit like the we are and all these people, Dennis, this is not new. This is what Christianity was actually designed for. The name of God being used by men set up Christianity as a vehicle. Christianity is the organization of spiritual principles for the sole purpose of economic and political control. What are we then doing? Using Christianity the same way it is used, and it was designed to work for political and economic control. What was Prince Johnson doing? Come here to the plantation. The plantation owner, the guy that will go and kill the slave and rape the little 8-year-old over there, is the one that was the pastor on his plantation. What was he doing? For political and economic control. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And if you are a Christian and you say in your Bible, you say God is truth, in the face of the truth, make your godly change. The debate, the discussion here is that this is why it is. What must be our position as Africans to this? Look, everything that was brought to us is for us to examine it. Look at it and say, look, what is good in this? Let's look at how we're put together and then see how we can deconstruct and reform it to where it benefits us. It is
Mr.
not
Tao, I want to follow up.
us more.
Mr. Tao, let me follow up. So in Christianity, and because that is our focus here, Christians believe or are made to believe that there is a higher power. And that if they have issue, they can pray to him.
Yes.
In fact, some Liberian Christians believe that if what they want, they don't get it, is because God has not agreed. And that nothing happened without God's agreement. And so if they go without job for 15 years, it's because God has not agreed. They believe that so strongly.
Yes.
So my question to you, my question to you, also, and this is where, I'm giving the question. Also, some of those people, because they know that their God has not answered their prayer, they will remain faithful, they will remain hopeful, and the economy in Liberia is not good enough, so much such that some people can go without job for 20 years. That is a reality, right? And because of that faith in that person, this is an instant we're giving, that his God will come at the appointed time. He is not causing any chaos. Don't you think that is a good attribute?
No, it's not.
How?
No, it's not. Because what it did was it took away your ability that when you were created, that was put in you for you to self-determine. It took that away and you place it outside of yourself to an imaginary being that you don't know, that somebody else told you about. I'm not saying the Christian God doesn't exist. That is not my point. But there is no proof of whether it is the African belief or anything. God is a concept. When the Africans wrote their books from 4100 BC to 10,000 BC to 4100 BC and revised these books and these documents, and Quarapoka, go and read the book of John G. Jackson, the 16th crucified Savior. Jesus was not even the first. The stuff is old. Are you aware? Are you familiar with Nkulunkulu of South Africa? Ungai of the Yoruba people? or Olorumari of Kenya, East Africa. These are African religions. Look at them. The same story. They're much older than the Christianity, but all these stories are old. But in those stories, you know how the African presented it? You are not looking for a God outside of you. You are looking from within. That when you were put on this earth, everything to succeed was in you. That when you pray, you are not praying for God to give you a job. You are not praying for God to give you a car. You are praying for the divine to give you the strength for you to pursue.
And so your argument is that
yes.
Your argument is that belief of looking up to someone else, some
create
higher
laziness.
power, is not
Laziness,
continuing to make
complacency.
Africans to be running to IMF and all of these places?
No, it create complacency and confusion, dependency.
All right.
Yes. And look, Anthony, real quick. And this is how it created. You see, you go and look at the churches, and the doctor is a Christian. Let him do this. It is their responsibility. All of the churches just about, they teach the people to be dependent on them. Because if you teach people to be independent, then you become less relevant. But if you teach them to where they can depend on you and only you can pray for them, because you must collect that 10%, guess what? You keep the membership that way. But if you teach the people that, look, you can pray. Why should I give 10% to a pastor for him to tell me what God said when I can read the same Bible
that is a serious charge, and it requires a rebuttal. So we'll bring in.
Look, my dear brother is buttressing everything I've said so far. So you are not poor because Christianity provided you the education that made you to make sound decisions that got you to where you are today. You did not sit down and subscribe to a deviation to Christianity while you were aspiring towards your success. It is after you've gotten your success from the sound Christianity with the sound teachings of Christian believers who came to you in your village and took you from your barefoot and put slipper on you, took you from running in the village without trouser and put trouser on you, took you from the village without clothes on you and buried you in the city, carry you to LU or carry you to Sana University. Today you in America, you learn that you can think for yourself. Those are individual choices you make. It's not a religious imposition. Now, does religion have its own flaws in terms of where people misinterpret and misconstrue?
Dr. Pearson, his argument is that religion has given you a thinking into dependency, and whatever it may have offered is far less compared to the damage of dependency it has created you, and so you are always looking out to somebody instead of looking within yourself for self-governance and other things. That's his argument.
So a fair question to us. The three of us on this platform has been impacted by Christianity. That's true. No argument to it. At some point in time, you may have changed your mind. Correct?
I agree.
The three of us on this platform are better off than when Christianity first met us. Correct? The three of us here are better off than when Christianity first met us. True or false?
It's false.
I disagree.
It's false.
All right. I don't have a problem with you disagreeing. So this is what I would say. I still hold firmly that if we did not have the schools that we had in Liberia that were brought by Christians, if we did not have the hospitals that were brought in Liberia by Christians, and Africa as a whole, if we did not have the colleges, the universities, if we did not have the democracy that we all enjoy, that kings and an elite few of individuals were now lording over us and taking our cattle and claiming our fields and taking our daughters for their wives and making claims to our entire town and villages as to be for them. When they died, the children took over. When the children died, the children took over. Have we still been under that circumstances? We will not be where we are today. That's my simple argument. Because I have seen in history, and I was still trying to refer to history, I have seen history where because of the governance structure that Africans subscribe to, chieftaincy, authoritarianism, monarchy, when a king died, the oldest son had to rival with the younger brothers. And at the end of the day, the younger brother, if he succeeds, he kill all the other brothers and sisters because he don't want to be overthrown. when the younger brother can kill big brother, he kill big brother and kill every other family member alongside so that he cannot be overthrown. When one monarch died, the whole city go. Those are things that aided us to be where we are today. The exposure.
Dr. Pearson, the argument you're making there is had Christianity not come, African society would not have advanced and developed to this stage and would have remained primitive. Am I understanding your argument?
So again, my argument is that Christianity brought more good to us than harm us. I cannot say for certain, and I will be naive to say that, Anthony, and I want to be, you know me, I'm a scholar. It will be naive for me to try to weigh the outcome of something that I did not see play out. So, for instance, the absence of Christianity on an impact it had on Liberia, for instance, education, colleges, hospitals, and making us to move from that primitive style of life, even though it was our culture, but it was primitive, bringing us to where we are considered to be, quote unquote, today, modern, where you myself sitting. I am saying to you, there's no.
I know you are well read, you continue to read, and you are a scholar. You know, African society were way advanced, and that they have kingdoms that were well developed, rich. Egypt is an example, and you know that. Far more advanced than even the Europe or the European that brought the Christianity that you're talking about. And that's why I asked the question. But close there, Tao has a rebuttal for you.
Give me 30 seconds. You mentioned Egypt. Egypt is one of the oldest civilizations in Africa. Today, Egypt is a democratic state. Question not democracy. Democracy is perfect. Democracy is noisy. Democracy is competitive. Democracy can be challenging at times, but Asia is a democratic state. A democratic state is one that agrees that people should be based, people should be led by people who they choose to lead them. People should have a say who govern them, and people should have a say that they don't want them to govern them no more.
Are you democracy to Christianity?
No. Tao is arguing that Christianity is an influence of governance as well. It brought in some influence of governance. That's what I'm saying. So if I'm looking at Egypt as you are claiming to say,
he's saying Christianity and colonialism, they are intertwined because the colonials brought religion as a way of control.
So there's a clarity to that. There's a clarity to that.
Okay.
President Boaga entered the executive mansion. He's a deacon. It does not mean President Boaga is going there as a deacon. He's going there as a politician. But he's influenced by his Christian and religious belief system. That's two different things. Like what I keep saying. So yes, So yes, there are two different things.
Thank you. Let me leave it there. Let's bring in Mr. Tao. Mr. Tao, I don't want him to lose his
the doctor is really confused. And I'm sorry to say, but the doctor
this statement confused you making it can bring problem.
He confusing. No, let me complete it. He confusing certain things because to be aware of our history. First, let me start with Egypt for him to be making reference of Egypt. Egypt is an occupied area. If we are aware of our own history, this is our problem. As the Africans are fighting the Roman Empire in Egypt for them to defeat them, in the midst of the war, they are partnered before with the Arabs. They call on them and they say, come and help us. The Arabs know that the Africans helped them before they defeat their enemy. So they come in the fight, they defeat the Romans. That is how Rome, pretty much when they lost Africa, that is how the Roman Empire collapsed. But the Arabs were fresh. They saw that the Africans were weak. And what happened? They took over that area. And if you go look, you can see the Arab Almoravids that came in waves later on to capture that area. So the people that are over there, like you are confusing it, that those people in that present day Israel, they are Jews. They are not. The ones over there, they're Arabs. In North Africa, they're not Egyptians. That go ahead, you a scholar, go and study the work of Dr. Cheikh Ntadia. Dr. Diop dealt with that already. As a nuclear physicist, a paleontologist, and a language specialist, he already dealt with that in 1963 when he defeated all the European archaeologists and paleontologists at the UNESCO conference. When he poured the skin of the mummy using the carbon 14 dating method to prove that the mummies and those people there, they were in fact black. He already proved that. So the people are not Africans. So when you're talking about democracy, that one is something completely different. But look, for the Reverend to be mentioning something about that without Christianity, will be sitting in the village, will not do this, will not do that. When the Europeans, you cannot separate Christianity and imperialism, colonization. It's one and the same. They are one and the same. Before, for you to say that because we're doing kingship and all this stuff, Dr. Pearson, if you were aware, the Socrates that you believe in, and the Herodotus and the how you call it, Pythagoras. Come on now, it's written. Go and read the Iliad and the Odyssey. When they all came into Ethiopia, Nubia, and Sudan, and they came for them to study, and they studied. All of them dropped out. The only one that stayed the longest was Pythagoras, and when he went back to Europe, he was a superstar. That before how you call him, or how you call their father of medicine, Herodotus, not Herodotus, but I'm forgetting his name, but the Greek, where he's supposed to be the father of medicine, that in the Hippocratic oath, Hippocrates, when he pledged homage to Imhotep, the first multi-genius that built the first medical school at the Grand Lodge of Luxor, where they go and see the whole Western medical system is based on 6,000 years ago. Go and look at the what they call the Hebus Papyrus, which is the medical book of the Africans dealing with spinal cord and brain, or what you call neurosurgeons, and see the kind of surgery that the African perform. Go and look at the one that you call the London School of Medicine, dealing with all of the different ailments, digestive system, and all the stuff that they have, that all of the stuff are the London School of Medicine. These are your documents, because if you're saying that they ran something so they don't know anything, you built the foundation. Go and look at the tweezers, the scissors, the scalpel, 6,000 years ago from your people, and lay it side by side with what they have today. It's the same. It has not changed. Okay? So don't be here if you have not taken the time for you to read some of your own history, to be saying that we were backward until we met some Europeans. When we gave them the civilization, when the Romans, with the decadence, they lost it. What did the Africans do? They went back into their dark ages. It was until 711 when Africans led by Gibraltar crossed back and entered into Iberia Peninsula, and then conquered there, ruled the Europeans there for almost 1,000 years, from 711 to 1485. Established for them in there the university system from Timbuktu, the University of Sankore in Timbuktu, established as University of Salamanca, is still there today in Granada. Your Harvard that you're talking about, the founder of Harvard came to that school to get educated. The founder of Oxford, the founder of the University of Edinburgh, the University of Lisbon, they came and they studied again under the Africans. Then they went back. The reason that we are suffering is because we lost power. It has nothing to do with how we rule ourselves. We rule ourselves well. And it should be the duty of every African to go and study how did we do it, so that we can recapture that moment instead of following somebody else's God. The African didn't do that by following somebody else's God, because they are not stupid. They knew that every society and civilization, people have their own God.
Thank you.
Because God is a concept.
Thank you. Dr. Pearson.
And, yeah, Anthony, the gods would not have forgiven you if he didn't give me 30 seconds. Look, let me say this. Look, let me say this.
Are you threatening me with your God?
Look, I hear you babbling all over the place. You even talking about genocide, extinction of a whole race of people, and all that kind of thing. I hear you mistaking and categorizing. I mean, with all due respect, I hear you trying to make it sound synonymous. Like it is black is associated primarily to being African, all that kind of thing. Those are baseless arguments. Not all Africans are black people. Because you saw somebody with light skin looking white, you think because the white light skin or white. Look, in ancient history, people were majority in majority speaking, they were nomads. They moved from place to place. We didn't have borders and lands and countries. No, people moved from place to place in ancient times, and the stronger conquered the weak. Now, let me tell you, do you know that Africans were the first to conquer Southern Europe in the 8th century? In 8th century, African was the first to conquer Europe and enslave them. So what? So I'm not. I wanted to Anthony, and I will rest on it because I gotta move on to the other question. I wanted to Anthony. I cannot measure how we would have turned out in the absence of Christianity being introduced to us and brought education, healthcare, and modernization as we know it today. I don't know where we would have been, because that
even with the information Tao provided about self-governance and civilization that was thriving way before this Christianity came to us.
That's the contradiction. The contradiction there is that Tao is holding two balls in his hand at the same time and saying all two of them is the same. He's one on one. He's saying the people came and conquered the whole of Africa and subdued it and indoctrinated it, right? And misruled it and misguided it. At the same time, you want to say Africa was so developed and would have done better without. Even now that the colonization was in there almost 100, almost going to 200 years ago, why haven't we reversed to what we were before? Why can't we reverse to what we were before?
You can't even ask that question, Dr. Pearson.
No, okay. I leave that with the moderator. Moderator, I leave that with
and so that will be my final question. And let me start with Mr. Tao on this one, because I want to open the phone line to see if others will want to call in to ask questions as well. There has been, a spirited and informative debate. If you just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony moderating. This is a debate between Mr. Joseph Tao and Dr. Clarence R. Pearson. The topic of debate is religion and Christianity. Christianity in particular, is that helping or hurting Africa and Liberia? Mr. Tao is saying it is hurting us more than it has helped us. Whereas Dr. Clarence Pearson is debating Christianity has done more good for us than any harm that it may have caused. And he argued further that, look, even if there's any harm that may have happened, it's because of misguided individuals who try to abuse or use the religion, Christianity or God name, to take advantage of the weak, and that's his argument. And so now the final question, and I'm going to start with you here, Mr. Tao. Let me look at my note here so I make sure I grab this question. It's a very, very fundamental question. What would Liberia look like today? What will Africa look like today if we have not had Christianity, in your own words, that is intertwined with colonialism, and the goal was to come and capture and control, so much so that we will continue to be at their mercy? And that is the interpretation of your description, and that's why I put it that way. And if you disagree, you can make that clarity. If we have not had this Christianity, colonialism intertwined, coming to capture Africans, indoctrinate them, and control them, all right, so that they can continue to be, or subordinates to European powers. If that had not happened, will Africa be as thriving as China is today, as America is today, and other Western democracies and countries today? What will Africa be like?
Yeah, better. You can. The first thing to even address that, we should first ask, how was Africa before the first Europeans started to arrive? Because the Europeans did not just come for them to enslave Africans in the 1800s. The Europeans were dealing with Africa far back as the 1500s, and you can go look at their own notes in the document that they wrote. The African settlers, when they describe them, like the Great Dahomey Empire, the Benin Kingdom, these people did not bring civilization; they destroyed civilization. Look at Monomotapa, that today called South Africa, the Zulu Kingdom, the Great Zimbabwe. They describe these things in intricate detail that they never seen a place like this. That lamps and lights. That that the Great Wall of Benin is almost 3 times longer than the Wall of China. That they enclosed that area and the street lights. And they wrote about these themselves when they arrived in the Congo, in present-day Liberia. Do you know what the battle was between the Liberian, the Southeasterner, and the so-called settlers? It was the trade that was between the crew and the Grebels and the Bassa and the Portuguese and the Spaniards. The pepper trade and the gold and the salt and all of these trades. And when they came in Monrovia and they saw that, and the goal was to control that. When you heard about all of the war, that's why the frontier foes went there. And so that, because I'm trying to look at Liberia, those were the Christian guys that came. They said they were the pioneers, and they came and God brought them. But that is what they did. They destroyed the kingdoms. And that didn't just happen. It happened with the help of the United States. The United States sent 2 gunboats that helped them to bomb the crews and the bastards and the grabbers and the crown into submission, to allow them, to force them into joining the state of Liberia as we see it today. So had Christianity not come, had the West, because the West came with Christianity, had it not come in that form, Africa would be far, because Africa was far better than any of these places. Go ahead and look before, when they came, what they met there and how they destroyed it. So they destroy it, then they turn around and then they tell you that, oh, if it was not for us coming here, you are not going to be any better. Like Dr. Person talking about Haiti. Haiti is not just Christian for the sake of being it. They were occupied. The first most successful black revolt that went on, and they defeated the people, but they were never allowed for them to thrive. And you're talking about why colonization over hundreds of years ago, but why are we still like this? As if you don't know how me and you ended up here. Even on the little stuff, when Turbo then decided that Firestone had to pay more money than they were paying, when Turbo decided that the Omega Tower was there in the Philippines, they were paying billions plus for it. In Liberia, they were paying nothing. When he decided that the Americans would pay for it, for the navigation stuff, when he decided that Firestone would be audited, what happened? They killed him. Once they put Samuel Doe, when they saw that Samuel Doe could not go on, they saw what happened? Created a war and scattered me and you anytime. And you know what? It is other Africans that want to think that they were put on the earth for them to depend on other people, for them to follow other people's way of life. They're the one that they always use for them to destabilize. And so for you to be here, for you to even ask the question that that colonization was over a long time ago, why we have not gotten anywhere? What happened in the Congo when Lumumba decided that he was going to take his country and move on with it? The Belgian and the CIA, what did they do? They killed him using Mobutu. What happened in Togo when Olympia decided that? So, man, come on now. Don't ask this question. When Nkrumah decided that we're going to unite Africa, what did they do? Use Joseph B. Dankwa, you know, the CIA agent that carried on that particular mission. George Bush father, the Bush, H. Walker Bush that owned the airport right here. And then what was his reward? They made him the CIA director. So don't ask this question. That is the thing I'm saying. We are not familiar with our history. Because
Thank you.
Look, we should start defending these people. Let us look within, defending them for us to constantly go the way that we have been going. We have been doing this thing over and over. That the person is not working. Let us try to pull back and say, okay, we've been doing all this stuff. It's not working. What other things can we do? Where should we look? There should be the discussion, but it's not every day we come here. It's the same debate to force the same democracy, to force the same one, to force the same religion. It's not working. It would never work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tao. Thank you so much, Mr. Tao. And Dr. Pearson is the same question, but I'm going to frame it because you are on the opposite side. Mr. Tao has propounded that had Christianity and colonialism not come to Africa, Africa would have been much more better developed than what it is today. And he's even arguing that, look, we are this way, helpless, with this huge dependency syndrome in us because our psyche was twisted to believe in somebody other than ourselves. And he referenced documented facts about African civilization and society that existed before. And according to him, even the Westerner documented these things in their writing. And so I asked the question, do you still believe that had Christianity not come to Africa, Africa will not be the way it is? Because it seems to be you are arguing that Africa is much more better now and would not have been this better had Christianity not come. Your response, sir?
You know, it would be naive for me to say, and I want to be clear about this. It would be naive for me to say that Christianity and democracy as a governing tool does not have its own, challenges. It would be naive for me to say that. At the same time, it would be naive for me to say that Africa would not have been developed to an extent in its own dynamics and ways had Christianity not entered into Africa, whether through colonialism or by the influence of Christianity. It would be naive for me to say that. I think what I mentioned to you earlier was that there is not sufficient evidence in the absence, of Christianity to see how Africa would have played out in the absence of Christianity. That's what I said. Now, having said that, I made it clear here that when Tyler was mentioning that all people in North Africa are not the very people who were there back in the days, and I said, listen, the word was a nomadic word in the past. People moved from place to place. That's why some people got the misguided understanding. The thing said that Africans entered the West only when they were taken there in slavery. Not knowing their historical accounts, and Tawu knows that the Africans have even gone and explored the world even before Christopher Columbus then and the Portuguese then started to even come and explore Africa. Africans have gone and explored the world. So I'm not going to sit here and say, no, Africans would not have gotten knowledge and wisdom to develop themselves. But here's what I can be practical about, and I want to be practical dealing with a particular audience. Tawo, before Christianity came to Monrovia that made it what it is today, the same Christianity that did not reach certain parts of our villages and have not had the same impact it has had in Monrovia as they have had in the villages are our towns and villages where Christianity has not made a major impact, develop more than where Christianity was established and made greater impact. What today, over 100, no, let me out. Over 178 years of independence since Christianity entered Liberia. Anthony can admit on this show right now, if you went into remote places that Christianity has not reached, it does not have a hole for Christian schools, Christian healthcare system, and other Christian immunity that Christianity provides to Liberians. Are the Liberians' life there better than the Liberians who were influenced by Christianity? Are the Liberians who were influenced by Christianity today, are they better off than the native Liberians that are in the rural, isolated communities today? I would take it one step further without any disrespect to any people in Liberia. I would say this: is Liberia, University of Liberia, better off today under the hands of our native brothers as it were under the hands of our so-called colonial Christian brothers that were controlling University of Liberia and built it? Is it better? Is JFK better than when the colonial kind of mindset brothers with Christianity in their mind who built that hospital under the influence? Is JFK better than what it was now that our native brothers are controlling it compared to what it was when the so-called colonial mindset guys were controlling it? Is it better for our people now? These are questions of reality that will speak to the data that is missing in Liberia. Because what the data says to me is that we, for some reason, seem to lack the ability to apply ourselves. And it has nothing to do with Christianity, because you and myself are product of Christianity. And the education that Christianity brought, the healthcare education that Christianity brought, the moral values you must carry today is because of the Christianity. I will take it one step forward, and no insult to anybody. I have our bush schools, the poor and Sunday society, has it developed better than our education system introduced by the white men or the quote-unquote colonial masters in our African settings?
All right, I will hold you there and bring Tao in for a response. And Mr. Tao, before you come in, hold your thoughts there. Let me announce the teleconference number for those who might want to call to ask any of you questions, or might want to, just give their own comment to this very spirited discussion that is being held today. The number to call is 605-313-6004. Enter the code 791403#. As a teleconference number. Once you call, you will fall in line, and we will be able to bring you in when it is your turn to speak. Mr. Tao, you can now go ahead and tell folks the number is in the live feed, both Facebook and YouTube. You can look for the number and call. Go ahead, Mr. Tao.
Yeah, you see the problem with Dr. Pearson. He cannot really fully make any kind of real tangible with respect to human development that Christianity or the Western engagement brought. In the first place, he keeps saying he cannot say that if they had not come, whether Africa is going to be developed or be, you are already developed. You are already advanced. You're already progressing. They came and they traded with you. and they went back and they wrote. They traded with for almost 200-300 years before they came back at the request of the church. Bartolome de las Casas, who was a young Catholic priest, sitting in Spain with the Pope after they came to Hispaniola, because after the African lost power in Grenada in 1485, they captured the first 4,000 Africans, the first batch of slaves that they brought to the U.S. African slaves were not from Africa. They were from Grenada in Spain. When the Catholic Church finally came and defeated them in Grenada in Spain, they captured the first 4,000 and brought them into the western world, Jamestown, Virginia, and some at Hispaniola, present the Dominican Republic and Haiti. They were not even slaves because they were experts. They came in for them to help. They were the agronomists, they were the engineers, they were the doctors and teachers to organize America. And the whites that came here, they were peasants. They didn't know anything about housing and farming. The Africans were brought in to help and organize them. So are you saying that for you to keep saying that, you can't say that is mean we don't even understand, because you're already doing very well. It's their present there that have you where you are. They came in, they're scavengers, they're criminals, they destroy everything. And then you come to Liberia, you want to point at some village. Go ahead and look at your own Liberian history. Those people in that era doing work, trading with the Portuguese and the Chinese and everybody else. When the so-called American Liberians came, just like the Europeans, with the same mindset from the plantation, they disrupted that particular trade. Go and read Edward Woman Bloody. Go and read his work. When he traveled into the hinterland, Gola land, and Belafana, all those places, he came back and he documented the kind of clothing and shoes that they were producing. He came to the government and said, look, we don't even need to go out to go order anything. That the kind of stuff that they're doing, but the government had no interest in it because they're Christian, they're imperialistic. Their goal was for them to conquer and take over it. You want to talk about your Christian brother. Why university? Or university that they built that the people could not attend. That unless you change your name, you have to be demonized. That's how many you will have the name today. You are never a piercing. So it's a concept that they put destroy everybody's psyche, inverted their mindset, and falsified their consciousness. And we say they want to defend this stuff. It's not going to help us. Okay? It's not going to help us. Christianity did not do the good that you are talking about. When you Christianity, as they put, is supposed to be moral code of conduct. That is how you say it is. I'm pointing out that it's a political and economic tool. And each time you mention the good of Christianity, that is why you always mention the materialistic side. That is all that Christianity is. The schools and the hospitals. You can't mention anything that actually moral code of conduct does not exist. Because the deacon is over there, when he finished preaching, he go sleep with somebody's daughter and all this stuff. We're not saying it don't happen in a society, but we're talking about Christianity. And that is why it failed. It doesn't work the way it is going. We need to look at it, recalibrate it, and adapt it to ourselves. And where we need to start first is those images. It's very important because symbolism means a lot.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. I will take calls at this time, and after we get a few calls, we'll get a closing. We have about 15 minutes left, and we want to close within our 2 hours mark. Let me see. We should have a caller on the line here. The name here is Terry, phone number ending in 098. Good evening there. How are you? Hello, caller. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for the show. Very interesting. My own info has to do with the other guy there that's trying to bring Christianity for Africa being the way it is. And I think that is very unjust, to us.
Terry, can you hold on? Tal, you say you can hear him?
Yeah, I put the volume up a little bit, but I still.
Okay, please hold on, caller. Let me make adjustment here to the microphone. My guest is not hearing you. Maybe I need to bring the speaker closer. All right, go ahead, and maybe you should speak a little louder. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm saying that it is unjust to say that Christianity is what Liberia and Africa the way it is. I think that is very unjust to the religion specifically, and is an attack to Christianity as a whole. Especially, it's like we're trying to find an excuse, for Africa and Africans being the way it is, and trying to blame our condition on Christianity, knowing very well that long before Christianity came, even Liberia, we had other traditions there that kept the people living in abject poverty. Even right now, you got in Liberia, you got the poor, the Islamic societies, and all those things that are there. Look at the condition of your people. Do you see the people that go to the poor and Islamic society, the kids? You see how they are treated? Do you think that has anything to do with Christianity? So I think when even you're trying to compare Western culture, saying that Christianity carried or that revolution to colonize Africa to Western culture, I also think that is very unfair. There were leaders who did not believe in Christianity, the slave trade. Those people who did the slave trade, they did not believe in the Bible. Reading the Bible doesn't mean you believe in it. And we've got to understand that there's a difference between Christianity and Judaism. Most people compare Judaism and Christianity, even though they come from the same book, but they are not the same. Judaism was brought by Moses, which contained the Torah, the Old Testament. Christianity was brought by Christ. You see, and under Christianity, law, the Christian religion is characterized by law. The Judaism, that where you find killings and other things. Politicians will use that as a means to say, okay, you know what? This is what we're going to do, and then we're going to put it on the Bible and say this, that. All right. But when it comes to Western colonization in Africa, brother, that was strictly political. It had nothing to do with Christianity. Christianity was only used to blind the eyes of politics or the people so that politicians can continue to rule them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have another caller. We're going to take that caller. That caller is Elvis Morris. Mr. Morris, you are live. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. C. Great discussion. Hello to Dr. Pearson and Mr. Powell. Look, I must say in defense of Christianity, right? First thing I want to touch on is that the Bible says, those who have read the Bible, if you take anything away from the Bible or add to the Bible, that person will be accursed. So I hear when people talk about like the slave Bible, that the people who enslaved people gave them the Bible, but those people committed, a cardinal sin against the word of God. They took passages out of the Bible. So if you understand the full context, you will know that those people were not Christian. They were accursed by the very nature of taking things out of the Bible so that certain slaves who were learning how to read couldn't see the full word of God. And then secondly, I want us to understand, if you were living in a village today, maybe I in Grand Judah and you in Grand Crew, going fishing on the beach or going to the forest, or whatever the case, you think our life would be what it is today? You think we would have developed cars? We as a people would have developed airplanes. We would have developed asphalt roads, to have, our villages, transform into metropolitan areas, a metropolis. You think we would have done that? You think our cheese and our problems wouldn't have been settled by wars? Like my people who would go there, like Dr. Pearson was saying, if a man wants to show that he's strong, we came from an egalitarian society where you got to show your worth. Nobody is inheriting any kind of kingship or leadership. You have to prove it, on a battlefield, or prove it by your strength. People going out there and killing entire groups of people just to show that they're the strongest. When somebody died, they sacrificed you with them to go to the grave with them. All of those barbaric, primitive ways. You think those would have brought us into the modern age that we live in today? You think you would have been able to do a show? We as African, as cool people as a whole, the whole Southeastern group of people, we would have developed technology where we can focus on Liberia and have a call-in show. You think had we not had interaction with these people, we would have cell phones and computers and laptops and smart TVs? I mean, the point here is that the word, the corpus of Christianity, the Bible, the New Testament in particular, doesn't teach you to oppress your brother. It doesn't teach you,
Mr.
you
Mr.
know,
Mr.
how to
Morris,
run a government.
Mr. Morris, have you
Go
read
ahead.
the pages of history about inventors? Some of the modern technology we're using today. Do you know? Have you read to see who are some of the inventors? It will amaze
Yeah,
you to
most
know
of
that. Let me learn. It will amaze you to know that over 40% of the technology that we use today were invented by blacks. I'm sure you have read some
not
of that.
true.
All right, go
No,
ahead.
not true.
But do you believe
There's a
blacks invented some of the
misunderstanding.
technology we're
Yeah,
using today?
yeah. Let me just say quickly, the misinformation there is that some black people have had parts to play in the broader invention of these technology, and the refinement of them has not been done by black people. Like with certain things, people say, "Oh, do you know that a black person discovered a radar?" Not true. The radar we have today is not the same as what it was before. Even cars. Out of the cars have many components. You can't discover a car engine where you don't have tires, you don't have wheel bearings, you don't have a transmission. That car is not going to run. So saying that you came up with one part in a component, one component in the whole part doesn't mean you invented the whole thing. My point here is that as black people,
And Elvis, is your argument then is that black people have not contributed to modern civilization and any advancement at all? We have just been at a recipient end. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
you contributed in big parts. Can we build cars in Africa today? Can we build airplanes? Do we know how to build skyscraper without the help of the Europeans? Can we even study medicine without coming to the West to go to the best European schools or the Western schools? Can we do those things? When we talk about Egypt and all of those things, where Liberia in the southeast, where we living in Egypt, or where we hewing woods and living in mud houses, or going on a canoe and going fishing, where we are advanced people.
All right.
So the reality is, let's be honest with ourselves. Christianity as a text, forbids slavery. It forbids a lot of things. Christ told you to give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. He separated his church from government. So when government is running poorly, you can't blame the church. Christ told you to abide by the laws of the land, pay your taxes, abide to Caesar's law. And when it comes to his word and his laws, it's a spiritual thing. I want to make a last point that the Bible talks about the appearance of a God. The Buddha you see, those are not gods. Those are two distinct individuals. The big Buddha with a big belly is from China. He's a different individual that achieved enlightenment. The southeastern Buddha you see that's skinnier, that's from India, that's a different Buddha.
Thank you.
That achieved enlightenment. So they're not gods.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Elvis. I appreciate your call there. Gentlemen, we are left with barely 8 minutes. And so what I'm going to do, you're going to respond to the callers, and then you give your closing after that. I will let Mr. Tao to go first on the response to the two callers.
Okay. So for the first caller, and also Mr. Morris, but will address the first caller. You know, when you are attached to things that you don't understand, people want to be here and defend Christianity, all these belief systems, as if they actually had a choice, as if they actually know how it was. How come you're in the same Liberia? When you're from the south, from the coastal area, you're Christian. When you're from the northern area, you're Muslim. In the same landmass called Liberia. You were not born any of those things. You were indoctrinated. Your master, your slave master that conquered you in the coastal area was Christian. So they gave you that. From the time that you were little, they told you that this is what it is and just follow it. The ones from the north. And that is what it was. They want to try to separate Christianity and the crime committed by Europeans. Christianity was the face and the front and the engine, the vessel through which colonization came. It was the Christians. You know, President Xi Jinping said something, that the African will even want to believe that they're better Christian than the Europeans that brought it to them. That is what we are seeing here. The people who brought it. Yeah, the people who brought it.
Some Africans believe that. Some Nigerians do.
And they will defend it. And I'd have these discussions at major conferences with the Europeans and their scholars, and will look at it and they see that it's true. But when you try to have with the African, because the European spirit implanted in them, it will resist. Because the self-worth and value of the African have been attached to these things. So for us to admit that we're misled or that we should look at this stuff a little bit more, it is too scary for you to give or why you are held onto too much for too long. But when you do it, you will have a healing and a redemptive experience. But to the first caller, you cannot separate Christianity from the David Livingstone and all these people that came. Who were they? They were Christians. They came in that form, and then the military and the corporations came after them. But they were the front. They were like the reconnaissance team to come and pacify you. Tell you about a God that is in the sky. Tell you about this God that had this son and did this and did that. He is talking about Old Testament. Moses did not write no Old Testament. You see, we don't know the history of these things. Moses died in 991. The Old Testament were written by Jewish scribes at the Sanhedrin. It took them 500 years, from 700 BC to 200 BC. The first book that they even wrote was Exodus. But then, because the whole story itself is a lie. How are you running from somewhere when you are not born yet? So Exodus was written first. So at the conference Jamia, that is where they wrote the book of Genesis. Okay? All the stuff that they wrote that there was some kind of slave in Egypt, the African took complete note. When the first invasion happened and destroyed the 13th dynasty, the shepherd king from out of Egypt, from out of Asia, when they destroyed the 13th dynasty and forced the Africans down, before the African, and then the Egyptian, the so-called Israelite came, and they were seeking refuge because the land was barren. The African were feeding them. What happened when the African came on the attack? Just like they're doing today, they connive with the invaders, and they sat there and they ruled Africa for almost 400 years. When Makara Hajasu came back from the south, from present-day Sudan, and came and redeemed and pushed them out, and when the Hyksos ran back into Asia, what happened? The Jews were expelled. You are a slave. You don't leave with all your gold and all your possessions. They were expelled because they were connivers. Okay? So we need to know this history. Mr. Morris is saying, well, we run around in the village. And I like the question. The fact we don't understand our history. Do you know how the whole African area, the whole area along Nigeria and Ghana, everything became populated? When Egypt fell, the African moved further down. A huge group of Africans, they came and settled in a place called Pot, like you put something somewhere, which is the Kwa speaking group that occupied that whole area, which is the Crown, the Gribble, the Crown, all these people. We settled in that area and were there for almost another 100 years. As the invasion started coming down, then we descended further down south and we moved all the way down and we came along the coast. That is why the language ran from the Bassa, that was one of the largest. We are in Nigeria, Cameroon, Senegal, Togo, Ivory Coast, because the different Bassa groups kept stopping with different leaders. And then they came along the coast. Then the other group came down from like part of Dogons. They came down like the Mende group, and they came down through Mali and Guinea, and they kept coming down, and they came all the way down. So the point I'm making here is that the question,
yes, please close there.
Yeah, the question only raised because we don't know our history. It is our duty for us to learn our history. It is written. You don't need to follow anybody else. Dr. Diop then already dealt with this cultural unity of Africa, African antiquity. Read Walter Ronley, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. Read these books where extensive work was done by your people, laying everything out. Read Dr. Bembo, a Black Man of the Nile, first African Egyptologist, because they wouldn't even allow him. So he had to go and teach himself for almost 60 years and found all these evidence and brought them to us. Let us go and study our history. If we study our history, we won't even be asking this question. We won't even be this confused. But the dependent also be this confused because we believe in them. They're telling us that without them, we are not going to make it. Whereby it's the other way around. Without us, they can't make it. Stop your gold and your uranium and your oil and everything else, and all these so-called civilization collapse. They can't survive without you. You have everything that they need. They don't have anything that you need from them.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tao. And Dr. Pearson, similarly, you will respond to any of the callers if you wish, and then tie that into your closing.
I want to thank Tao for the exchange. I think it was healthy for our listeners out there. And I thank you, Anthony, for the moderation. Though I see you sometimes trying to rescue Tao from the well, and, when he's drowning in the debate, but it was okay. But let me say this. Let me say this in closing. I hear all the spider story from Tao, right? Tao trying to say, oh, you guys are indoctrinated by Christianity. Then at the same time, he is indoctrinated by writings of other people who are on the far side of the debate. So he's trying to say
other people, African scholars who wrote about us.
Tao, I recommend, and I honestly, with all due respect, I recommend that you go and look. Just type in Google or type in Amazon, the trilogy of evil. Book 1 is The Dark Side of Religion. The Trilogy of Evil, The Dark Side of Religion. It was written by Reverend Dr. Clarence R. Pearson Sr., and that's me. In that book, I dissected the negative impact that religion has on society, and how politicians also misuse and abuse religion and use it for extremist purposes, use it to exploit a governance structure and other things. But I was careful to draw the dichotomy between the people who are abusing religion from religion itself. Because it is possible to have a good thing, and how it is used by others may not necessarily mean that the thing itself is bad. Like I mentioned, we all may have gone to Harvard University and graduated millions of students. We all may go into practice and we practice differently. It doesn't mean to say Harvard is bad school, but the way in which we represent Harvard give it the image that we present at a given point in time. And I'm saying, because a bad Harvard graduate is governing bad in Liberia, does not necessarily mean that a good Harvard graduate performing in Botswana is also bad. So the two narratives will have two different outcomes depending on the person who is exhibiting the value that they have inherited. And I'm making you to understand also that you may have your children in the home and you bring them up in certain values and discipline. How they represent you on the outside are their individual decision and the individual choice. It's not you as the parent who trying to make them a quality product for society. Having said that,
still be my children.
Having said that, Kwame Nkrumah advocated for democracy in Africa, in Ghana, when he wanted Africa to have independence, when he wanted Africa to have self-governance, when he wanted Africans to decide, Ghanaians to decide who will elect their leaders and who will stand to run in the country. Julius Nyerere, he also wanted independence. He wanted to be able to decide who governed them, the self-determination. Those are all democratic tendencies. And what they ascribed to, they had the same choice between 1950 to 1975 to say, okay, now we are independent. We don't want to do anything with, we don't want to have anything to do with the colonial powers and the colonial structure. We can govern ourselves. We can do what we want to do. They had that choice. They had that choice. And today I will say to you, Tao, we still have that choice. But this is what I will say in conclusion. Christianity has done more for us than it has harmed us by bad actors. And let me give you why. You and I are seated on this platform today because of Christianity coming to Africa. If not, you will still be walking barefoot somewhere in Pribo. You will still be walking still going in the zoo bush in the poor society, trying to learn how to set trap. I'm not saying it to denigrate you. I'm saying it to show you facts that you are what you are today because of the quality of education and healthcare and a better living condition. You are still not cutting sin to decide who is wrong in a judicial matter. You're having a civil law court. You're having a criminal court. When the judge is right and the system works for you, you get justice based upon the presumption of innocence until you are proven guilty. But when you did Sasewu caught you whether you are guilty or not, no matter what, Sasewu grab you. What I'm saying to you, people may abuse it, but it is not a bad system. It depends on how you function it. It has its flaws, it has its weaknesses in terms of democracy. But yes, if we have the right people in place, the right thing will be done. And I want to say thank you for having me tonight, Anthony. And I think it was a good debate. I don't think it was a debate upon whether we believe in Christianity or the Bible. I think it was about the impact of the Bible and Christianity on our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson and Mr. Tao. Thank you. And that brings us to the close of today's debate. What you have witnessed today is exactly the kind of conversation that Focus on Liberia was built for. Honest, vigorous, and unafraid of the questions that others would choose not to ask. To Dr. Pearson and Mr. Tao, thank you for your willingness to engage this discussion with seriousness and intellectual courage. To disagree is not to disrespect, and to question is not to destroy. Religion is woven into the fabric of Liberian life. That is not debatable. That is not a debatable fact. What is debatable and what must continue to be examined is how it is practiced, who it serves, and whether the institution built in its name are rising to the responsibility to claim. The Liberian people are watching, the Liberian people are asking, and this platform will continue to have a voice. I am Anthony C. Thank you, and thank you for such a spirited and informative debate. You both represented not only yourself, but you represented your nation, Liberia. This has proven to me that the African man is an intellectual. On that note, enjoy the song that says, "We are indeed all Liberians." And until we see you again, enjoy that song, and bye-bye.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.